This is KGW News at noon.
And thank you for joining us. I'm Brenda Braxton. We are starting off this noon with a KGW exclusive. Today, former New York Times columnist Nicholas Kristof officially announced he's running for Oregon governor. He told us first when Laurel Porter went to his family farm in Yamhill.
Nick Kristof says he's walking away from his New York Times position, a job he loved, for what he sees as a calling to serve, a chance to lead his home state of Oregon at a critical time.
Those other apples seem to be doing okay down there.
Yeah, they don't need any more water, that's for sure.
No, they sure don't.
Nick Kristof grew up on this farm in Yamhill, where his mother Jane still lives. Inside the old barn on a blustery October afternoon, he announced he made his decision. So what have you decided?
I've decided I am going to run for governor of Oregon.
With that, Kristof, a two-time Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, made it official. He's leaving his 37-year career as a New York Times columnist to join the race to be the Democratic nominee for Oregon governor. A decision he said was tough, but feels is a calling.
It was a wonderful perch, but when your friends and people you deeply care about are suffering and you're attending funeral after funeral, then that perch and writing columns that are read in the White House doesn't mean as much as knowing that you're going to be going to another funeral.
Kristof wrote about those childhood friends in Yamhill in the book Tightrope he co-wrote with his wife Cheryl Wudunn. A quarter of the kids on his school bus have died from drugs, alcohol, or suicide. He sees those tragedies as a reflection of the deep problems Oregon faces.
I don't think anybody can look around Portland or elsewhere and think this is a model of good governance.
If elected, Kristof said his top 3 priorities would be addressing homelessness and affordable housing, improving the state's education system, and creating good jobs. He pointed to opportunities in climate technology.
Oregon has a fighting chance to create those good jobs, and whoever becomes that climate hub is going to be the Silicon Valley for the next 50 years in terms of the job opportunities it creates.
As for the type of governor he'd like to be, he looks to the late Governor Tom McCall for inspiration. McCall was also a journalist, an investigative reporter at KGW before getting into politics. A 2-term Republican, McCall was known for bringing people together.
I think that as a liberal from a conservative rural area, maybe I have some natural advantage in trying to build bridges and try to bring people together, and I believe it's time to try.
Kristof has faced questions about whether he meets eligibility requirements that he's lived in the state of Oregon for 3 years before the election. He voted in New York in 2020, but Kristof insists he's an Oregonian.
But I think that, what's more important than checking the boxes here and there is that my soul is here. My bones are here. My life revolves around this farm, around people here.
Kristof has no political experience, but he believes he has what it takes to lead the state.
I've come to the conclusion that at the end of the day, we can't solve these problems as a state if we continue to send the same kind of people to Salem to try to address problems that they help foster in many cases.
This is the first open Oregon governor's race in 2 decades. Kate Brown has reached her term limit and can't run again. Kristof will join a Democratic primary field that already includes some veteran Oregon politicians. Oregon House Speaker Tina Kotek and State Treasurer Tobias Reed are both running for the office, as are at least a half-dozen other Democrats. On the Republican side, at least 12 candidates have announced they're running. Expect the campaigns to really heat up in the new year ahead of the primaries in May. The general election is Tuesday, November 8th, 2022.
Also making news this noon, the Portland School Board meeting. Last night, it was so heated, it had to be shut down and moved online. The board is deciding whether or not to require the COVID vaccine for students 12 and up. Alma McCarty reports.
Even before Portland Public Schools Board of Education meeting began, tension was high. Some tried to refuse masks at the door, others brought signs. There was at least one heated discussion turned disagreement over the possible student vaccine mandate inside the meeting room. We spoke with parent Sonia Fentish early in the evening.
I personally don't care if people get vaccinated or not. I think if you want to get vaccinated, that's great. If you want to vaccinate your kids, great, do it. I support that. But that's the whole point, is that it's choice. And also the fact that we have these exemptions in Oregon, this shouldn't even be on the table. It should be choice.
Her comments and the comments of several others did not make it in front of the board, at least not in person.
It's ended before it began.
We had visitors in attendance who were not complying with the state mandate of masks, and therefore the Board of Education chairwoman, Michelle DePaz, asked folks to put on their mask, and folks refused.
All right, we're going to suspend the meeting, and we'll move to a virtual location. We can't put everyone at risk. Thank you.
You are cowards! I will not sit down. I won't comply. You guys are cowards.
It's upsetting because the parents are here. The parents were the ones who ended the meeting tonight, and the students are just here to talk. We want to have a discussion.
Xander Levine is a senior at Lincoln High School.
Students are the ones sitting in class all day. We need to be protected. We need to be safe, and a vaccine mandate would help us.
Tuesday morning, at least 200 students who feel the same way in support of a mandate staged a walkout at Grant High School. The discussion among the board restarted later Tuesday night.
Good evening. I want to welcome the board, superintendent, staff, families, students, and guests.
After hearing from a few people through virtual public comment, leaders considered the feedback from the listening sessions held last week. Those on all sides of this recommendation hope the rocky start to the evening didn't hinder the ongoing conversation surrounding a vaccine mandate for students.
I think the important thing is to hear the commentary of the public.
Well, the majority of the board supports the mandate, but they delayed the vote next week. That will now happen on November 16th. The board still has some questions about how to implement the mandate and what exemptions to allow. Hey, another issue facing schools, finding substitute teachers. The Beaverton district thinks it has a solution. It's offering subs big incentives, like raising the daily rate from $195 to $230. Retired teachers who are currently subbing give that approach 2 thumbs up.
I think they need to do something like that to incentivize it in a profound way. And so I'm hopeful that people who have retired from teaching like us and others would be interested in doing that.
The district spokesperson blames 2 things for the shortage: a lot of hiring over the summer, which depleted the substitute pool, and hesitancy to come back during the pandemic.
And, it feels like no matter what we do, we're just stuck in the sand.
A few hours ago, the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association gave us an update on how the industry is doing during the pandemic. Thousands of places worry they may not even make it through the winter. Right now, outdoor dining accounts for 20% of restaurant sales, but as the weather gets colder and rainier, those sales will definitely drop off. Federal funds were supposed to help, but CEO Jason Brandt says there are more than 2,000 Oregon restaurants that haven't gotten any money from the Revitalization Fund. The cash ran out halfway through the process. As a result, he worries more restaurants will have to close for good.
The Restaurant Revitalization Fund is a proven program, and similar to the Paycheck Protection Program, we should look at doubling down on a successful program. And there are so many local restaurants and workers that would benefit from any act by the federal government to replenish the fund.
Brandt says there's still hope for restaurants that haven't received funding yet. Their application could still be processed, but no one knows exactly when that may happen. So at this point, it's a waiting game. Well, the bomb cyclone made for a wet, windy weekend in the Pacific Northwest. In Northern California, though, record rain triggered landslides, especially in areas affected by wildfires. Now a PSU researcher is studying how climate change could intensify those big rain events. We've already seen some of that here in Oregon. Last January, heavy rain caused this landslide near the town of Dodson. This is the same area scorched by the Eagle Creek fire 3 years prior.
We have two things that we think might increase with climate change in the future. And one is more extreme precipitation, and the other is potentially more fires.
The researchers have put instruments in previously burned areas of the gorge. They'll track rain amounts and ground movement and even give researchers a look underground during any potential landslide.